say when you choose co-founders, it's a very, very high stakes decision. What did you see in Pravin Uncle at that time?
Love at first sight.
I consider myself to be an entrepreneur. So my goal was before 35, I want to start a company. So when we met Kiran over that coffee break, he said, look, he was the CEO of Tech Mahindra.
He's the inventor of Wi-Fi as we know it. And he and my father, Timon, was exploring what to do, and they seeded the idea of building out Mojo Networks.
So we built a technology. We quickly realized that the risk capital for us had to come from Silicon Valley.
So I remember in that meeting, I kind of walked in and said, look, I am not here to hear any advice. People actually put money, not as much in idea, but in people actually.
But 2009, you decided to kind of give 14 trees.
So people are happier keeping the land barren. People are happier if the land is being burnt. But people are afraid if somebody comes and plant trees. So that's when it occurred to me that if you can somehow tap emotions and attach it with the trees. And that's when I started imagining that the forest that we want to build, it can be imagined as a forest full of memories.
I think it's important to establish what 14 trees today is.
Yeah.
2 lakh plus trees.
Trees, yeah.
1500 plus acres of land completely reforested. Hello everyone, welcome to a brand new episode of the BarberShop. Today we have a very, very special episode. Our guests, in fact, we had one guest, but now we have a co-host and a guest. You have met my co-host before, my wonderful dad, Kiran Deshpande, who has been on the podcast as a guest before. But today our guest is someone extremely special. And the both of them together actually are the reason why the seeds of entrepreneurship were sowed in my head when I was very young, possibly 14 or 15 years old. I met Dr. Pravin Bhagwat, Pravin Uncle as I call him, when I was possibly in the 10th or 11th standard. He was at that time maybe 35 or 36 years old. He was an academic, he was a researcher, he is the inventor of Wi-Fi as we know it. And he and my father, who had just exited Tech Mahindra as CEO at that time and was exploring what to do. He was 47, 48 years old, and they met at IIT Kanpur and they seeded the idea of building out Mojo Networks, at that time called Vibhu, which then became Airtight, which then became Mojo, and built out a technology company out of Pune and California, where it was headquartered, and exited the company in 2019. I saw that entire journey, starting the age of 15, well into my career at McKinsey. And then when I started Bombay Shaving Company, also they were kind of tenured founders who were running a large setup, in the B2B technology space. And they continue to inspire me from a distance. After the exit, they have gone on to do different things in their own right. Of course, you heard Dad talk about his work as an angel investor, a mentor at TIE, doing work with entrepreneurs in Pune. But Pravin Uncle actually has kind of spent his entire life's purpose post Mojo and even during Mojo actually in a project that in my view is changing lives and impacting the earth more than any guest that you have seen on the BarberShop till now. I remember my first interaction with Pravin Uncle. I was very enamored by the IIT JEE. I continue to be. And at that time, I was going to start my preparation for the IIT JEE. And first couple of times when I met him, I knew he was a professor at IIT Kanpur and he was a IIT Kanpur computer science student and all of that. And I asked him what his JEE rank was. And he looked at me and said, actually it's very disappointing. It was, only 12. And he was actually disappointed about a JEE rank of 12. And since that day till today, every time I've met him, I've always derived tremendous inspiration to be a better person and to learn something new every time. So Pravin Uncle, welcome to the BarberShop and thank you so much for taking the time to come to Delhi.
Thank you, Shantanu. I'm excited to be among millennials and Gen Z. For me, it's actually another way to get some energy in whatever work I'm doing. So thank you for inviting me here.
But let's jump right into it. I remember when I visited the 14 trees land parcel and you took us all around, and I remember sitting over lunch with you and you said that, being an entrepreneur, we are always thinking about growth, increasing value, and everyone is thinking about kind of which is good for humanity. We kind of live better lives. Our standard of living goes up. We have more goods. We kind of become smarter as a race. But you said there are sometimes we need to do things that are not anthropocentric in their purpose, and that has stayed with me. That I completely agree, because now I think about the barbershop also. It is for people, and everything that we do at Bombay Shaving Company is for people. At Mojo it was for people, but you are now doing something that is without keeping human beings at the center, but doing something for the larger ecosystem. So talk about 14 trees and what that means to you, and why is that your life's purpose?
I think you started off with a very heavy question. I think, look, I'm at core, I consider myself to be an entrepreneur. And I think entrepreneur's job is to identify opportunities, new opportunities that they're excited about. So currently I'm running a reforestation project, and it's not because I'm trying to save humanity. I just came across a bunch of observations and I saw there is an opportunity here. And that opportunity is what kind of drew me. So I have done, a lot of tech in my life. But at core of it, tech for me was a means to do something else. And it so happened that during my college days, I did a lot of hiking, trekking, and I think my favorite sort of way to spend time vacation is to go in a national park and kind of do camping there, trekking there. So I've kind of done a lot of it
In India and outside.
in India and outside. And over time, I have built a lot of deep appreciation for pristine nature. And I always felt that, we should be doing more to kind of conserve and preserve nature. And so whenever I see instances of where sort of nature is getting destroyed, it bothered me. And while I was running Mojo Networks, there were times when I was driving from Pune to Mumbai to catch a flight, and returning from US, you land at midnight, and you catch a taxi back to Pune, and at night you see these beautiful mountains are on fire. So that sight kind of used to bother me. But it's one of those scenes which you see it, and then it kind of, by the time you reach home, it's kind of gone.
Yeah.
But I saw that pattern over and over again in year 2003, 4, 5, 6. So I started thinking, this doesn't look like a random act of kind of a natural fire. This is some deliberate action behind it. So I became curious to kind of investigate why people are putting hills on fire, and later realized there's a deep socio-economic reason behind it. And as a nature level, I wanted to kind of understand the problem better, just as I have tried to always understand mathematical problems better. And at some point I realized this is a far more complex and a deeper issue. And I think the complexity of it kind of drew me. And slowly I started thinking about it. And so after the Mojo acquisition, I decided to kind of put more time into it. And that desire has kind of put me where I am right now.
Paint the opportunity. So you started observing this from 2004-5 on
Yes.
trips back. You started seeing a pattern. What was happening? What was happening? We were burning lands. It was getting deforested in a way. And when you started studying this, what was the opportunity that came to life for you post acquisition? And I think you had started
Basically,
doing,
I asked around, why people are burning hills. And the root cause of it is that once upon a time, it used to be all forested land. Then deforestation happened and the land was turned into a grassland so that you can grow grass and feed cattle.
correct.
Now, growing cattle, feeding them is an economic necessity. And every year you want more fodder. So burning the land after the grazing season is over is the cheapest way to clear the land.
So new grass can grow.
So the new grass can grow and all competing species will die. So the surface area for grass keeps on increasing and you get more and more gas production. So that was a core economic reason why the hills were kind of being burnt. But as a nature lover, I felt, while you are increasing the grass production, you're also destroying a lot of birds, insects, butterflies, and wildlife. So that somehow didn't feel right. So just saying that, don't burn it is not a solution because you've got to figure out alternatives.
Correct.
So that you can have a sustainable use of the land. And so I'm by DNA an experimental researcher.
Huh.
So when I see a problem, I don't want to read books and theories. I just want to kind of start experimenting with it, and that was the trigger. I said, no, let's buy some piece of land.
You just decided that let's
Yeah,
go.
I'll just buy some piece of land which is ecologically degraded,
Huh.
and do some experiments to figure out how to do a sort of sustainable land use and manage the asset in such a way so that you can meet all human needs and also help nature restore and recover. So that was the, I would say, kida in mind. So I think in 2009 is when I decided, I need to do it seriously. And this is the peak of the time when I was running, I mean, along with
We had actually launched cloud,
way ahead of
and-
its time.
and
2009.
we had huge time pivoted from just wireless security to secure Wi-Fi. And those
remember
were that pivot means raising another $30-40 million
Oh.
and all of this stuff. And I remember Pravin.
And this was on the back of the financial crisis of
Financial
2008.
crisis, yeah. That's the
Back
time
of
we
the financial
pivoted
crisis.
to becoming a cloud company.
Huh.
And interestingly, this thing was happening in the background. While on the one side, you were trying to take company to the cloud and adopt a SaaS model.
Huh.
And this was also a way for me to kind of decompress over
Correct.
the weekend, kind of unplug from the madness and go and spend.
Pravin, you recall we would have the discussion in the small conference room just near my desk. Pravin would come down and then we would talk about the cloud, and the cloud term was not there, if you
Not
recall.
that. It was SaaS. It was
What do you
called
guys call it?
SaaS. It was called SaaS model, actually.
Okay. Huh.
And
Software as a
actually,
service,
what that time all we did was we took our controller and Samir put it into a data center, and we said this is SaaS. And then the cloud term came later. So we would discuss this, and Pravin, you would say, I think let's have a chai together and then switch the discussion to trees and burning and all.
But talk about your relationship. I think we'll come to 14D separately. But
Yes, yes.
you guys met when you had you were a successful CEO, having taken MBT or Tech Mahindra from a small business in the Mahindra group to a pre-IPO sizable 700-800 crore top line business, which was competing with TCS and Infosys and the likes. And you had spent time researching. You had gone on to kind of be a part of the team that built out and invented Wi-Fi. You were there when the first packet of data was
So I
sent.
was part of the team at IBM TJ Watson Research, which built an early prototype, which later sort of took shape as Wi-Fi standard. And interesting story. So I was giving a talk at IIT Kanpur.
And how old were you? What was going on in life at that time?
I think I was about maybe 33 at that time. And I moved back I was thinking of moving back from US to India. So I joined as a faculty member at IIT Kanpur. And I gave a talk. I think Narayan Murthy was there to inaugurate the computer
Actually,
science
it was,
department.
if you recall, Pravin, it was the inauguration of the computer science building at IIT Kanpur, for which Mr. Narayan Murthy had given funds. And he had put a condition that rather than doing a ribbon cutting, it should be a conference.
Okay.
And Pravin had just come back to India maybe a couple of weeks before.
Yeah.
And I was invited to that conference also. And that's where we met first.
And we bumped on a coffee break,
Yeah.
exchanged business cards. And here we are, 24 years later, having founded two companies together. And
Wow.
so
It was very
just a chance encounter over a coffee break,
Absolutely.
which created this whole legacy of.
Shantanu, you remember Sanjeev Uncle? Sanjeev Kumar?
Agarwal uncle, yeah.
Sanjeev Agarwal. He was the head of computer science.
He was also teaching there.
He was a faculty, he was head of computer science department.
Correct.
And so he called me up that this conference is coming. And it was, I'll quote unquote him. By then I was not in, because if you recall, you were in 10th and preparing for 10th. And like any other average dad worried about how the son will do in 10th.
And I gave you enough reasons to worry.
Exactly. So you were football first, soccer first, and study later.
Correct. Everything first, study last.
Study last, exactly. So your mom got more stressed than I did. And so he called me up, said, the conference hai. And he said, whenever I call you, तुम कहीं लंदन में होते हो, न्यूयॉर्क में थे, अब तो तुम्हारे पास नौकरी नहीं है, अब तुम क्यों नहीं आओगे? So we went there, and interestingly, I will just share with Pravin's ability to. So the conference started on a very heavy technical stuff. A bunch of non-linear complex equations came up in a couple of talks. And then was Pravin.
This is a computer science department
This is a
building.
computer science
I
department,
mean,
but
you can expect complex equations
it
and
was
so on.
expected to be. It was Jasprit Bhumrah sort of, just putting the one after another fast rising orchids. And then came Pravin's talk.
Okay.
And the first slide was, he's very fond of orchids.
Huh.
So a whole bunch of flowers on the slide.
Okay.
So everybody kind of gave a sigh of relief. Ab koi equation nahi aa rahi. And I still remember, Pravin, you said, unlicensed radios will proliferate the world like these flowers and trees. Because these radios, what Pravin invented or what he did, the pioneering work, the Bluetooth, the Wi-Fi, you don't need a governmental license like you need for mobile.
Correct.
So any of us can use a radio, create a radio and transmit. So there are some protocols around it. So he equated it to blooming flowers all over the place. But I think it was good that any few minutes of mathematical equation, all of us would need probably Excedrin or aspirin.
What was the talk about? It was about.
It was basically, I'd given a talk on how unlicensed wireless can have a profound sort of impact on the way countries' digital revolution is going to happen. And that time, even Wi-Fi was not unlicensed in India.
Correct.
And I moved to India because I wanted to see if can Wi-Fi be applied in outdoor setting. So I built out a network from Kanpur to Lucknow by piggybacking antennas on top of BSNL towers.
Oh, really?
Extending over 85 kilometers. It was the first experiment of that kind in the world, actually.
Talk about this. This I don't know this. Huh?
Yeah. So basically, I was part of the Wi-Fi team at Watson, and this technology was built primarily for indoor use. And in India, the whole mobile telephony had not come.
Correct.
So I was thinking, can this technology be also used to solve the digital divide problem in the growing economies like India? Because
This is 2000,
unlicensed.
2001,
This is 2001. So this is unlicensed radio, very cheap commodity technology, but it was not proven in that setting. So I wanted to do a field experiment. Can the same radio, the same silicon, actually work on that long distance? So built out a network connecting IIT Kanpur to Lucknow.
Okay.
And it was very successful. And we did a demonstration to then Secretary IT, Mr. Rajiv Ratna Shah. He came from Delhi to see the demo. Was very, very impressed. And there was an excitement building, can this technology really take us
Pravin, you
forward?
recall there was a phone call from our own Kotbagi Lane house that went on the telephone network from whatever way into this Pravin's network at the other end. I said, hello world.
So this was back in 2001. And
was that the first data-driven phone call in outdoors?
Over outdistance, yeah.
25 kilometers.
In fact, we had also called the MIT Media Lab.
Yeah, MIT Media
From
Lab.
the middle of a village in UP.
Okay.
And so there was a lot of media coverage, publicity around this. And I was teaching at IIT Kanpur at that time. So there was a proposal that should we take this and turn this into a kind of maybe a CDOT or a CDAC kind of a mission. So I asked in my class how many people would like to join such a project. And not a single hand went on. Then I realized that people want to do more exciting stuff. So I said, what if we create a startup? So people said, yes, we will do it. So I actually had 5 students from the class I was teaching. And that's how Airtight Networks got founded. And I had met Kiran.
And how did you guys? So you were 33, 34.
Yeah. And I came to India.
In your late
47,
40s.
47.
You're much older than him.
I'm 14 years older than him.
So you were co-founders who had different vintages and clearly different lives before.
And we did not know each other at all.
Did not know each other.
So how did you guys
the way
decide?
it happened, I wanted to do a tech company in the Wi-Fi space. But I was a techie guy. And I knew I needed a business partner. So when we met Kiran over that coffee break, he said, look, he was the CEO of Tech Mahindra, and now he is kind of liberated soul and wants to do something next. He said, no, let's meet. So when I came to Pune, we met on the FC College Road in a coffee shop.
Actually, on a Sunday morning, I remember the date, Pravin, 7th of March. This conference was in February. On a Sunday morning, I get a call. Remember we met? I said, Pravin, I remember your flowers, then the equations. And so we met at on FC Road. You know,
There's some
Hem-
coffee shop I remember.
I remember, you know, it was, I think, his Hemant Wakankar, no?
Huh.
Anuradha, Aparna's elder sister's husband, he had suggested Rupali or Vaishali. So I said, that will be Sunday morning Vaishali, you can't even talk, right? There was a barista, I think Cafe Coffee Day, newly opened Cafe Coffee Day,
there, yeah.
not a single soul there. So I said, that is a better place to sit. And so we were there for like a couple of hours. That night, Praveen went off to US because he used to work for the group, Praveen, if you recall, they had moved from IBM to create a company where he was chief architect, wireless architect.
So you were also teaching at IIT Kanpur as an adjunct faculty. You were also doing this
And
experiment.
thinking of
and
starting
also-
a venture. And that's when I met with Kiran. And I said, this is a great sort of partnership. We also needed one more person in the mix. So Samir Palnitkar, my great friend, he had done 2 startups earlier and knew exactly, he was a Valley person. And he also had sort of interest in moving to India at some point. So we reached out to Samir.
And he's your IIT Kanpur friend.
He's my
He's a IIT Kanpur, this guy. So it's interesting, there is a saying in Hindi, Praveen, kahin ki eat, kahin ka roda, Bhanmati ne kunba joda. The architect, wireless,
Yes.
a CEO, and a serial
And
entrepreneur.
Samir was a great executor. I mean, he took the product and the VP engineering role. So I think 3 of us sat together and said, look, here are our roles and we are going to now start this company.
I remember I was 15 years old and mom was saying कि ये तीन लोग सब कुछ छोड़ छाड़ के एक छोटे से रूम में बैठ के खुद को प्रेसिडेंट, खुद को VP, खुद को CEO बना के छोटे थे 3-member team. So she used to have a lot of fun at her expense.
Talk about how Inder gave us the $100,000.
Yeah, so I think, for any
So also for our viewers, you have to take yourself back 25 years, 23 to 25 years. There were no $5 million seed rounds. There was no $100,000 seed round also. This is an era before there was any venture capital in India. Venture capital in India used to be either banks, which are state-run banks, or some HNI who would kind of back you with some, maybe a few lakhs here and there. That's how seed rounds, and you should hear Sanjeev Bikhchandani talk about it in detail in his book and also on podcast. But this is a very different era. Also, they're talking about Wi-Fi, and most of our viewers are 20, 25 years old. So they've grown up with Wi-Fi. 2000, 2001, 2002, the presence of Wi-Fi at home.
Wi-Fi term didn't exist.
Phones used to be super expensive. To give you a sense, incoming calls used to charge 2 to 3 rupees per minute. Outgoing calls used to be 2 rupees per minute at that time. And most people, 98%, 99% of people did not have phones. The few people who did have phones, 98% of that was prepaid. So it was an extremely different world. And you might have to just kind of close your eyes and imagine that world in the context of this discussion.
Actually, another sort of flavor I'll add to this. One of the reasons kind of I relocated to India, because at that time I was young, 33, 34 kind of years of age. So my goal was before 35, I want to start a company.
Acha.
That was kind of the deadline.
Why was just
Just
arbitrarily?
And wanted to do something which is sort of different. Because Valley mein kya hai ki, see, if you are doing a tech company, on every street corner there is a tech company in the Valley.
Correct.
So if you start doing the same thing, you are like yet another guy on the corner, right?
Correct.
And then I looked at the sort of the IT landscape in India. It was dominated by essentially services companies.
Correct.
So this thought occurred, why not build a product company
Out of India.
In retrospective, sort of we realized that it was too naive. And that's probably the reason we kind of took the plunge and did it. Because the supportive ecosystem was not there. There was no angel investors, no VCs, no way to kind of bootstrap, no market also.
Yeah.
And also you're building a product for a technology that people don't even know what it is.
Correct.
But
So too many headwinds.
too many advents, but we didn't know.
That's
There
a
was
good
no,
thing.
no wind didn't exist. There was no oxygen. There was no air. You could barely breathe. But it's interesting. You said seed round. At that time, if you had asked some people what is a seed, they would think the seed that you should to get a plant or a tree out.
Correct.
People didn't understand that. And
So it was way ahead of its time. I think that attempt was kind of way ahead of its time. But that was the exciting part, that we are doing something completely different and new. And so it was a hard and intense journey, but it was, I think, in retrospective, a very fulfilling and enjoyable ride.
People say when you choose co-founders, it's a very, very high stakes decision because, you're in it for a long time. There's commercial interests that are wedded and that the trust has to be very high. But talk about What did you see in Pravin Uncle at that time, which has remained consistent in his, kind
Love
of...
at first sight. And I can say that for him also, I became a director in 14 trees without me knowing it. So when he registered the company, the co-director was me.
Huh.
So I said, Pravin, thank you very much for giving me a not for salary job.
No, but what did you see in him? He was much younger to you, like clearly
I think
with a different
Shantanu,
career path and so on.
one thing I want to bring out, and Praveen will probably see all of us who did world class work in an India which was starved of that. Not that world class work didn't happen. You had large groups, Tata Group, Mahindras, Larsen Group. People think that a lot of good stuff has happened in 10 or 15 years. It is really not true.
Yes.
A lot of stuff has happened long before.
Correct.
So there were people of amazing eminence and all that. And I've seen that because my founding years were in TCS. And TCS as a global category creator for remote services. So it's a very different environment. So, you sort of breathe that DNA. And Praveen, I remember you saying, yaar, kuch action create karna hai. So not that we want to build a company, we want to get some ROI, none of that. Kuch action create karna hai. And I said, okay, action create करना है तो फिर what else other than it is not just Mojo was not just a tech company. It was an inventive tech company.
Yeah.
So we built a technology, and Praveen will sort of share that his thesis was, and I bought into it instantly, that this connection, wireless connection in unlicensed radio, and Wi-Fi term did not exist. So we used to call it IEEE 802.11.
The protocol.
So this is the IEEE. For people who don't know IEEE, I'm sure all electrical electronics engineers should know, is the Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineering. It's an old organization. A lot of standards are by IEEE. And so we used to call it 802.11 or unlicensed wireless, something like Wi-Fi came much better later. So this technology will become de facto endpoint connection in large enterprise or enterprises. So instead of an Ethernet cable, radio will do exactly how mobile phones replaced wireline phones.
Correct.
And I think, if you recall, Pravin, that was your
That was the talk.
thesis
Yeah,
also.
absolutely. Actually, to answer sort of also your question, it was, I think, a bigger purpose that kind of unified us all together. It wasn't about let's quickly build a company and exit in like 2 years, 3 years. None of that. That this whole vision of trying to build a tech company in an area where none of that action happens, I think that purpose kind of unified us together.
Yeah, I also feel like, and Dad talks about it a lot when it comes to building product companies which are world class from India for the world. Till date, is still a struggle. Like we are now talking about exporting the India stack and UPI, and now we obviously have engineering talent, which is obviously a lot more with Bangalore coming up in the last 15, 20 years is matured. But when you guys started, I think that vision of building a world-class product company from India for the world was first time. We had done a great job in other spaces. We'd not done something like this. So
Actually, it was at a very later stage that I realized what is the difficulty of doing a
yeah,
product company.
what was the
See, the realization was that it's pretty much a winner takes all kind of a market in a product space, because once you have a winning product, you can supply to the entire global demand. So it's almost like in an Olympic event, whoever wins the gold, everyone knows who the person is. If you ask someone who is the fastest person, you'll say Usain Bolt.
Correct.
If you ask who is the third fastest,
Correct. You will not.
People will struggle
Correct.
recalling that person. So it's like in a product race, unless you are among the top 2 or top 3, I mean, you can't survive.
Correct.
So you really have to be that good.
Correct.
And you have to have that intensity to really be among the, gold, silver or bronze in the world.
Correct.
To be able to survive. And that intensity, we kind of, once we got in the game, we realized, you have to really run that fast, that class of game to be able to survive. Otherwise, you're dead.
And talk about your first, I remember you tried to raise money in India for a while.
3 months, 3 to 4 months.
And then you guys just decided we have to go to California now.
So Samir, see, Praveen is an academic. I am an academic lost in the business world. So, accidentally we think quite alike. And I don't know whether it stars or not. Both of us are born in March. You know, what happened at that time, and Pravin will recall, I was reasonably well known as a Tech Mahindra CEO because Tech Mahindra name didn't exist, and then we did very well. So I had access to Tata Group, Ramdurai, and all that. So we went to TCS, we went to some of the other companies that had venture and capital in their name. And very
Who were
quick.
the TCS? Who else did you guys go to in India?
No, we went to Ram. Ram was my boss.
That is TCS, but anyone else? Was there any
we
VC?
went to SIDBI
no
Venture.
SIDBI, correct.
SIDBI, ICICI Venture. So we went there, and many of them, and some more names which I probably won't want to take here. So they all were after me because they thought he's going to start another service company, right? Moment I said I'm not doing that, so they all went away.
Oh, really?
Because moment we said this is what we are doing, that this is our thesis, there was a polite. In fact, Pravin,
nobody had sort of played the
they
product
they
game.
never
at
never
that
played the
time.
game.
So it
They
was
never played the
too
game.
big a risk for people to.
Underwrite.
In fact, there is a slide I have, Shantanu. It has list of companies that are venture and capital who all had rejected us at that time in those 3 or 4 months. And in fact, one of the talks, Pravin, if you recall, we at IIT Kanpur, Pankaj had asked me to give that talk, and I showed that slide. So, but we quickly realized that the risk capital for us had to come from Silicon Valley. So, Samir,
nothing to blame the India market that time. It's just
Yeah,
that
it was
we were
not
too
there.
ahead
Not
of the
evolved
game.
It just didn't
The ecosystem
have
was
the-
not there.
correct.
And then you
So we
guys
finally
just...
went to Valley. We stayed
And
there
I
for like
was
7-8
also being
months
headhunted.
Really?
to raise the Series A funding.
And when we
that's
were
how the
doing it, when we were
started.
doing it, so we would in a car doing all this. I would get a call from some of the international recruiters who are after me to hire me as a CEO for global companies. And so I said, so and so is online. Pravin, I'm going to say no. You stop.
That's crazy because at 47, 48, you're at the prime in a way to kind of
At least
create a 10, 15 years more as a CEO of a top company. and then-
somebody met me in a coffee shop, and next day Economic Times had that I was in talks with them for the next venture. At that time, I stopped meeting people in the restaurants.
That was a huge opportunity cost for you.
It was an opportunity cost.
And you bet that opportunity cost on. But what?
I'm not regretting.
How was that? How was that 7-8 months of raising capital? And what did you see? What was the mission orientation that you saw in this much younger co-founder that kind of gave you confidence that I will say no?
See, I had never done a venture. So I was a rookie at 47. I mean, you have now very young entrepreneurs who don't know anything. The only thing I had was experience of building a business. And I think in TCS, you asked how did we come first time and all that. Shantanu, if I go back to my work, a lot of things were done by where I was part of a team that did it for the first time globally.
Correct.
So
TCS was a global, yeah.
So for example, we created a local area network before the Ethernet came. And interestingly, Pravin's PhD guide, Professor Satish Tripathi, he was very closely associated with TCS. So he visited us in the mid-80s and he saw that network and he was blown away. You guys have put together this. Not only we put together, we had a customer in Bangalore, Karnataka State Road Transport. Their computers were connected using this little Kluji network. So there's a lot of first time. So I was not scared. Obviously, a frontline global researcher. Pravin was an invited speaker at Microsoft, Intel, and all that. He had no.
You was also you also had gotten I remember being very enamored by your MIT Innovation Award. And
It's
so
old time.
still, I think, but
So
that's what gave you comfort
went
that
to
you're.
US. So Samir was very precise. Let's do this next step.
Yeah.
I'll come to India, and I will take care of the operations there. And we had over 15 engineers. Most of them Pravin had hired from IIT Kanpur, University of Science, and all that. And he almost airlifted us from Pune, where we were having fun, to Silicon Valley.
And that's how the first round happened.
First round. So we were like, in the Silicon Valley system, 2 founders from India looking for tech funding was kind of new.
How was your experience with that?
Yeah, I think we were enjoying. That time, every day. In fact, I'll tell you a very interesting story. I think we must have given pitch to 50, 60 venture capitalists.
In
at that
Silicon
time,
Valley.
Silicon Valley, yeah.
And there were times when, Kiran used to do a meeting, sometimes Samir used to do the meeting, sometimes I used to go, sometimes used to go together.
Yeah.
So I remember one meeting, and it was like after 40, 45 rounds of rejection, you're kind of getting impatient, your money is running out, and people are giving you different ideas, go meet this guy, go meet that guy. So I remember in that meeting, I kind of walked in and said, look, I am not here to hear any advice. I'm here to raise money. Your time is precious, my time is precious. If you got money, we'll talk, else I'm out of here. So it was very rude, but I think the guy liked that aggression.
I cannot imagine you doing that.
I mean, imagine, when you are really pushed to the wall. So I think that guy liked the aggression. He still didn't give the money. But it was a realization that, people actually put money not as much in idea, but in people actually.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
So once you build that trust, that investors believe that, they can bet on this group, this team, that's when you get the funding. It's not the, five tab spreadsheet and the water flow model, and none of that actually works. You need that.
Correct.
If you don't have it, people say where it is.
Correct.
But if you have it, doesn't mean anything.
Correct.
It's ultimately your really passion and how fired up you are is all that matters actually.
And how did the first one come through? This is Walden, right?
Yeah.
First one was Walden. I think Daniel was the guy who liked us. Yeah.
So, and I think, Pravin, we talk about luck, serendipity and all that. Through some alumni network, I don't know if Pravin's or mine, somebody was in Stanford, they introduced us to Daniel. And so that was our first meeting. And Pravin, you recall, we had about 3 hours we mentioned. Now, interestingly, Daniel was from Mumbai.
Okay. He's an Indian guy.
He's an Indian guy.
Okay.
Indian guy. And he had spent his childhood in Pune.
Oh, okay.
So there was an affinity of people from. What he did though was he met us. He had done a reference check on Pravin and me in our respective systems. So he was ready with a positive feedback for Pravin and me both. So we had this 2-3 hours meeting. And Pravin, if you recall, he said that both of you are very well referenced in your ecosystem. That is a positive thing. However, the challenge is that you guys are right after .com bust. So the money is locked right now.
You guys, the timing of that business
Timing
was
is
very
it
difficult.
could be
Right
as bad
after
as it could be.
$120 million cap, nobody was investing, number one. Number two, we were not from Silicon Valley. But he said, hang in here, you have an investable idea. If you recall, Pravin, he said, we have an investable idea. And that sort of, in my mind, was a good thing. And he ended up leading the
several
round.
VCs had also put in tech investments in Israel at that time.
Yeah.
And they're having good successes. So we said, look, something similar can happen in India also. So I think that pitch
was
also
great, yeah.
resonated, that, they got to play a game and see
Correct.
if something like this can work. So we created our headquarters in Mountain View, and engineering was in Pune.
Correct.
And I used to split my time a lot between the two locations. And that's how the seeds of actually 14 trees were born, because I used to watch this Bombay-Pune highway at 7-8 times in the year at different, seasons.
With fires and this and that.
And at night, I saw these fires. So back in 2003 onwards, when I started seeing that kind of thought was sown at some point, what the heck is going on? But because of all the intense execution of Mojo, I never got time. But at some point later, that thing really, the fire just got lit up.
quite metaphorically. But let's move. Like there's the good segue into this, right? So from 2001, you guys got together. 2001 to 2019-20, when you sold the company. I think, you started the company in the .com bust, well ahead of its time. A lot of kind of first time stuff to do, right? You're building a product company out of India, headquartered in Mountain View, but tech team in India. Kind of clients all over the world, etc., etc. But 2009, you decided to kind of give 14 trees, like you kind of made it was a side hustle because this was your full-time job.
Yes,
so
yes.
how did you start thinking about kind of buying land and starting to put capital and kind of blood and sweat into something with not much economic upside immediately, which you may have seen?
See, 2009, if you also remember, was the year when there was a global economic crisis actually happened.
Correct.
So it was an intense time.
Yeah, yeah.
And sometimes we are going through really tough phases. you need some other avenues to vent your
Energy.
frustration out. So 2009 is when I realized that, there has to be some life beyond this day and night.
Treadmill.
And we had almost 3 near-death experiences actually running the
Yeah.
company.
And we had to shrink
And there was
the
one
company.
that came close to around 2009 as well.
क्या हुआ था तब? Like,
नहीं, मतलब this whole, the market is gone. Customers are not going to buy the
paying.
product.
People are not
Your
buying.
burn rate is still high.
and so
You've
you
got-
guys were like 9 years in the market now. You guys are
yeah,
9 years.
and VCs want you to kind of,
Upswing.
and the market is not there. So you have to cut the costs. You have to kind of decimate the team that you've built. I mean, these are very troubling
Remember, Pravin,
things
we
to do.
had
Yeah.
Yeah.
top quality engineers, and our customer acquisition was quite satisfactory, not just globally but India also. Started doing well. But every Silicon Valley company was asked to cut down by 30-35%, independent of.
In fact, I remember we were told, you go tomorrow to the office and cut the team into half. And I said, you can't do this. I mean, the people you have, hired, you have uprooted them from different geographies. They have moved to India.
And they're
they
doing
have
good
got
work.
their kids admitted. And they're coming to office hardly for like 2 weeks, and you tell them you are sort of, we are cutting it down. So I remember we had an all hands meeting where we said, look, we are going to cut your salary down to half, but we are not going to lay even a single person. And I think that was a magical moment. Everyone rallied behind us. They thought this is a great thing to do.
Yeah.
We didn't lay off even a single person. And we kind of
Tided it.
tied it through
Tied
that
it,
wave
tied
and
it,
emerged much stronger and a much better bonded company, actually.
And the thing about Mojo Networks was, Pravin, and if you recall, see, these days entrepreneurs, many times they ask, how do I hire top team and all that? And I always said, hiring the best people is the easiest.
Yeah.
Because they have self-confidence. And when you can show them something, which Pravin did very well, I did very well. If for example, Jatin, I worked with him.
That's
Pravin,
something I've noticed about you guys. You guys kept insanely, high quality people together for decades in the company.
they don't leave you.
Because I think people were sort of united by a bigger purpose and mission in life. And we had such a fantastic culture in the company that everyone wanted to win the game. I mean, it didn't matter whether they were getting half a salary or quarter salary or whatever. It was not an issue, actually. So we still, I think, made such lifelong friends. And, many of young guys have actually come out of the company and started very successful other tech companies.
Then
So I
8
think we
or
became
9 companies came out
of Mojo. Absolutely. So I think it was that grooming that they got and the environment and the culture they saw. So at the end of it, it wasn't a financial success, but I think we created a huge amount of value and great satisfaction actually out of this whole journey.
So 2009, you said, okay, I want, like, this is not fun at all. If I only do this, I need to figure out how to put out fires in the hills of Bombay, Pune.
Correct.
And so what?
So, and another, actually, it's kind of interesting that this whole idea of 14 trees has grown very organically.
Quite literally.
Literally organically. It wasn't, that big vision was not there. So one was this whole fire scene which was bothering me. The second was also a desire to eat good food, meaning, the vegetables and things that we buy in the market. You hear the stories of, contamination in the food supply and, use of insecticides and pesticides and all of that. I say, at least one luxury that I deserve in life is to have good quality, uncontaminated food.
Correct.
So why not grow our own food? So that was another reason. I said, let's buy some land and we'll grow our own vegetables. And also explore this whole fire issue. So that was another trigger.
Okay.
See, sometime I now started believing that once you have a strong desire to do something, somehow the destiny kind of conspires to open paths for you. So my driver that time, Anant, he was the guy I put on the job, go and search for land. And I'll tell you another reason why I put him on the job. He had joined me about 2 years before that, and he used to always complain, I'm idle. I don't have enough work. So I was surprised, he's a driver who's complaining he doesn't have enough work. Because I used to go to US and gone for 3-4 weeks. And he said, look, I'm just sitting and twiddling my thumbs, don't have any work. So give me some work. So I said, your job is, I bought him a motorcycle. Your job is to go and search for land.
Radially outside.
So it was a good way for me to keep him busy. So he won't complain. And
He's the de facto chief operating officer of
He is-
14 Trees today.
Trees, yes.
he is the de facto chief operating officer, and I have become the driver. So when people come, I pick them up from the airport, I drive them to the project site,
Yes,
show
we
them
have-
around, and drop them back. And he is the one who sits there and runs the project. So our
we
roles
should-
have got reversed.
I think so. So as we build out the story, I think it's important to establish what 14 Trees today is.
Yeah,
2 lakh plus trees,
trees. Yeah.
1500 plus acres of land completely reforested, much of which is not owned by you but also kind of given to you.
So
how many
about
people employed, what kind of ecosystem, so that as we build to the story, I think our viewers good to know what the end goal has become today and what it could be in the future. I think it'll be good to kind of put that.
So basically, it started off as a desire to have a small piece of land, like 4 acres, where I could grow vegetables. So and it took 3 years to find that land. So 2013 is when the first 4 acres were acquired. And now 2025 beginning, the work has expanded to about 1400 acres. 200 plus local tribals are employed in the project. We have dug more than 105 ponds. We are spawning micro ventures, micro enterprises for the local people. And we are also incubating high-tech companies in the sustainability space. So there's
Like
no
Spree.
way.
Like
Like
Spree, yeah.
Spree. Spree.com is a company which came into existence, and to partly we can claim credit for.
Also a Mojo alumni.
Yes.
He was Mojo alumni.
Yes.
And his first customer came through our contacts.
Yeah, first 3 customers actually they found through 14
Our
trees.
contact.
There was no way I could have imagined that this
That's
thing will,
insane.
and it is just growing organically even now, and we have no idea what it will grow into a few years down
What
the
is,
road.
you said that your aim is that 25% of India's land should be reforested and you should play a role. Like 14 trees can play a role in 25% of in your lifetime. That something of that nature is the
So
is
I'll
a
tell you
big
the crux of the
goal.
problem that we are kind of now looking at. There is a large amount of degraded, ecologically devastated land lying around where nothing grows. It is not a land which you can do any cultivation on because there's no water. Soil has already eroded, so it's mostly gravel kind of a land. And it is an asset which is lying idle. And if you go back in the history,
But who owns that land, for example?
quite a bit of it is under the government ownership, spread across different gram panchayats. It's known as a Gairan land in Maharashtra. Some of it is also privately owned actually. So there are large tracts of privately owned lands. And if you go back in the history, you will realize that India was predominantly a forested continent. But as the population has increased, a large tracts of land have been deforested. Some of it happened during Britishers' time because wood was used as a fuel
Correct.
to sort of power the industrial
Trains, industry,
trains
everything. Yeah.
industry. And so the deforestation that happened, those lands got converted into grasslands. And people are burning them every year just to grow more and more grass. So ecologically, a lot of devastation has happened. And once that cycle of devastation starts, the soil erosion happens, the land is not able to hold water anymore. So the water table starts to drop. So the land which I actually acquired, 11 years ago,
First
was
fork.
exactly of that type. And when we saw that we could revive that land,
And how did you revive it? That first 4 acres, how did you do it while being a full-time founder and running a company?
one of the key decisions which I took very early on, that we didn't want to revive that land by throwing resources at the problem.
That would be counterproductive.
There was a see, without water, nothing can happen. So if the land doesn't have water, what do? Typical solutions are you bring in a pipeline,
Correct.
or you drill and find a bore well, or you bring tankers full of water to revive the land.
That is again counterproductive because
All 3 methods, I said, no, we will not going to do that. Because if you use these methods, whatever technique you are developing cannot scale.
correct.
So if you are not bringing tankers, if you are not using bore wells, you are not bringing pipeline, then how do you do it? The only solution is rainwater.
Correct.
And the rainwater just drains out. So you have excess rain during monsoon, something like 600, 700 mm rain, but you are not able to hold any of it. Come October, 15th October beyond, it's all dry land.
Correct.
And if you plant trees, it won't survive because it needs water in February. Became how do we hold the rainwater? And again, I didn't want to use plastic sheets. I didn't want to use any cement to create big structures to hold water. So idea was, can we use some natural methods to do it? So we started digging holes, digging ponds as a way to hold water. And that also didn't work because the
And
hole...
how are you digging ponds while running a company? Like you went and did this yourself, found some
No.
volunteers?
So that's where my right-hand man, Anand, I tell him, look, go dig the pond. So he will go around, find the contractors, bring them on.
And you would fund it and so on.
And I would just fund it, right? First 3 attempts failed. We dug one well, no water.
Like the water not being able to be held.
We dug a 55 feet hole.
Huh.
Didn't find a single drop of water.
But the monsoon was not getting...
No, the monsoon rain will collect, but it'll drain out.
But actually, in the beginning,
The whole
Pravin,
ground doesn't have groundwater at all.
you tried to try to create a well.
Yeah, so the first thing we did, try to create a well in hope of finding groundwater. Didn't find groundwater. Then we created another pond next to it. That also failed. Then I actually tried a bore well up to 220 feet of depth, no water. And they hit a hard rock at that time, so they can't go any deeper. So 3 failed attempts. Then we turned attention to rainwater harvesting. That, whatever rain is coming, can we hold it in some kind of a pond? So the rainwater harvesting pond we created also failed, that it could not hold the water. Whatever water was coming in, it was just percolating into the ground. But 3 years later, we realized that whatever percolation was happening
Or getting stored.
was somewhere going into the cracks of the ground. And 3 years later, the water level rose to a level where we started seeing water in the holes that had originally failed. So 2016 was our first aha moment. Wow, we've now got some groundwater here, created out of the percolation ponds. And that's when we started plantation. The first year's plantation got completely burnt out.
And so now you said, okay, you said I want to grow my own vegetables for my own consumption and kind of for my family.
Yeah.
And want to do something about this reforestation. So you have 4 acres of land which you bought on your own.
Yes.
Now you have funded a bunch of holes which have kind of not worked out. 3 years later, now you have water that's come, and now you're like, okay, now I have the ability to start planting some stuff. Okay.
So I'll tell you a very funny story. 2018, I think, was the first year when we harvested the first papaya
Okay.
from the tree which had grown at that spot.
Okay.
So I remember I brought that papaya home and told Aparna, you know how much this papaya cost? I said 65,000 rupees. You want to eat it? So you recently would have seen, that duct tape banana artwork.
Yeah, that $1 million thing. No? And the guy ate it, right?
That
So
papaya
we had
was-
our version of papaya, which cost me. So I calculated how many papayas I produced and how much money I had spent.
How much did you spend till then?
By that time, I think I had spent 40 lakhs in buying the land, maybe up close to 1 crore. I had spent the money.
On digging, contracts,
Digging and-
Anand's expeditions, all of that.
And
3
we,
years
got, and we got like 10 papayas.
And Shantanu, Pravin and I would talk, and Pravin would remember, on Mojo, the engine was quarterly result, this quarter, next quarter. Here, quarter
3 years.
didn't make sense at all.
Monsoon after monsoon, you were looking
Monsoon
at
after monsoon, yeah.
Wow. So you put in 1 crore of your own money while running a company and kind of bought land. But were you getting some vegetables and all of that? Like your initial thesis of kind of at least eating good food?
So initially, we got some brinjals and some okra, but they were all infested, meaning the issue we were using organic. And all our neighboring farmers were using insecticides.
Correct.
So all those insects would fly off and sit into our plot.
Correct.
Because they found a safe haven.
Correct.
So all our vegetables were all,
Infested.
But something interesting started happening. Year after year, I noticed that the amount of infestation is reducing.
Okay.
Because the excess of insects draws birds who feed on that insects. So birds started coming
On that 4 acre piece of
on
land.
that 4 acre piece. And they were the controls which reduce the amount of insect, and we started getting some yield. So nature also has a way of sort of correcting itself. You have to give it time. So I think our first good produce we started getting in our year 2018 and 19.
The papaya.
The papayas and some vegetables and so on, but also a very small quantity that it won't even feed our one single household. But there was a joy of you know, harvesting something from
1
your own
crore
land.
papaya.
So 1 crore put in. Okay, so now you have 4 acres. You have people around you who are obviously doing agriculture or kind of doing their own orchards and so on. What was the response? Did people?
Actually, they were kind of very puzzled and they could never understand what is going on because easy solution is to invest in a pipeline and bring water. Why would you dig these ponds and where you're not going
Was
to get
there a
outside?
certain sense of skepticism slash lack of trust? What is this guy doing here with our with land in the middle of?
No, so people were always, puzzled and they were not never understood why we are trying to do what we are doing because obviously people are experienced. I mean, they've been doing agriculture for such a long time and obviously there was. I mean, people think these guys have some other plans to do something here. They are maybe just bluffing right now. So interestingly, it took 7 years before our neighbor finally came and saw that we were successful in transforming our barren land into green. And he offered his land that look, you have been telling me to stop fire, do this.
So
you can take my
till that
land.
time you were telling him कि तुम जलाओ मत या whatever.
Yeah, because our 2016 plantation all got burnt because our neighbor lit fire
And it spread.
and it spread and it completely burnt all of our plantation.
Shit.
So 2018 he
But
agreed.
would that did that not enrage you a little bit? Like,
No, he said, look, this is what I do every year. You are a new guy here, so it's not my problem. So again, these are the real constraints that you have to deal with. And 2018,
Pravin has elephantine patience.
crazy. That is absolutely crazy. Patience and like kind of calmness. Huh? But then what
so
was that?
2018, we had a breakthrough that he said, look, I will inform you when I'm burning. So at least,
That was good news.
So at least you know.
so at least we know how to protect ourselves.
Correct.
And 2020, he came and gave his land to us, saying, look, whatever you have done on your land, do it on my land.
And what made him do that? Like, what was he doing?
Because
And
in his land, he was only grazing
okay.
cattle, while in our land, we were growing papayas. He didn't know how much we had spent to grow that papaya, though. And since we offered to do it for free to him, he said, take my land and do it. So 2020, I got access to additional 8 acres of land.
So that was his 8 acres.
Yeah. And we started
And
spreading.
he gave it to you just like.
No, but his intent is saying, you want to plant trees, I'll give you land, but all produce he's going to keep.
Correct.
We have no share of that produce, but we said, fine, we'll do it for you. And that's how more and more people.
Like when something is too good to be true, people don't trust it.
So it took 7 years. It took 7 years for him to realize that we were genuine, and he finally offered.
Wow. And so that became now 12 acres.
Yeah. And then something actually very interesting happened. So real actually growth started happening during COVID time. So when COVID happened,
And you had just sold the company and so on. I think I'm assuming that there was some amount of bandwidth.
I sort of told her I want to go on sabbatical because I want to spend more time in this project. So I remember we had around 5 laborers who were working with us on the project.
How many people were it by then, by 2019 or so?
In the project,
Huh?
only five laborers.
And Anant and you.
Yes, that's it. It was that small. So COVID time, when there was a lockdown all over the place, a lot of these tribals who were working as daily wage laborers, they lost their jobs because of shutdown.
Correct.
So I remember one day I was sitting and having chai, and suddenly 40 people showed up asking, can they get some work because they are out of job. So at that time, my calculation was that, this lockdown will be over in another 2-3 months. So since we are getting access to land, if 40 people are asking for work, let's hire them. So I said, you're hired. So our team size grew from 5 to 45.
And what were you paying them?
We were paying them about 350 rupees per day.
Per day. Okay. Daily wage.
And I said, it's a matter of taking a gamble for 3 months, so we can do it.
But you are funding this.
Yeah, I'm funding it, yeah. 2 weeks later, 40 more people showed up saying, हमको सुनना आया कि यहाँ पे काम मिल रहा है. So suddenly our team size grew from 5 to 85 in 4 weeks during COVID time.
And you are paying all of them 10,000-11,000 rupees a month.
And that's when I started realizing, this cannot go on. I mean, until then it was running as a private project. And I realized that, to run this, I need to create.
That's 8 to 9 lakhs per month of.
My calculation was in 3 months it will be over.
But that's still 25 lakhs. 25 lakhs.
So after that, everybody will go back and take up their job. So in some way, I got trapped into my own net. And then as an entrepreneur, I started thinking,
कि अभी
people,
ये
see,
10
people say आजकल के ज़माने में labor नहीं मिलते हैं.
हाँ.
And here 85 people ready to work. So that problem is not there. There's so much of empty land around here which needs to be reforested. So I'll put these guys to work and plant trees. And then I realized that the owners of the land actually are not willing to give their consent because they fear that if I plant trees, they cannot transact that land because forest department will not let them cut the trees. So people are happier keeping the land barren. People are happier if the land is being burnt, but people are afraid if somebody comes and plant trees. This is the byproduct of the way we have done the regulations. So that's when it became a very intriguing problem that how come we are, everyone talking about global warming, everybody talking about climate change, and here are the people ready to work.
And
The
plant trees and fund it.
everything is there, but still we can't do it. So it became a very intriguing puzzle to solve. And that complexity is what kind of drew me into it. And very quickly I realized that I can't keep writing the check and keeping the show going.
Mom and dad used to be very worried.
Yeah.
कि Pravin को क्या हो गया है? Pravin is like putting funding all of this, and dad was saying Pravin is very soft person. He will not be able to fire anyone, and these 80-100 people will become 200 people very soon. And so you were a cause of a lot of anguish.
Anxiety.
I think.
And more than me,
mom's anxiety.
Mom would,
What is he doing and so on.
So that's where I incorporated 14 Trees Foundation as an NGO because I realized you need a legal structure to be able to raise finances and bring in money to be able to keep the show going. And so I was kind of pushed against the wall. It was not a plan that I had
by
for
80,
myself.
by 80 tribal people who decided that we need you to give us work.
Yeah. And everyone said, once the COVID is over, they will go away. But actually, they have not only stayed, they have brought their friends and family also. So now our team size is 200 people.
Wow.
So I think this is where I want to take a segue and talk a little bit about entrepreneurship. See, entrepreneurship is about sort of identifying the opportunity and figuring out creative ways to find a solution. So here was a situation where I'm a believer of climate action, that there is so much of barren land around me which needs to be reforested, where we do something. We have figured out a way to bring water without using any extractive methods.
And that was sustainable. You could keep doing more and more of it.
Because it's a matter of digging ponds and holding the rainwater. So it requires some capital investment to do it. So the contractors who were doing that work were available during COVID time. They were looking for work. Laborers were begging for work. Land was there. We have figured out a solution. So it's just a matter of connecting the dots and making it, sort of doing it, right? But it was so hard. Because where are I going to get finances? Because there is no ROI here.
Correct.
And also when you are even raising charitable money, everyone is very skeptic in the beginning. Have you tried this method? Have you tried that method? Have you talked to them? Why is your cost so high? Other people are doing it at a lower cost and so on. While you are in the middle of the action as an entrepreneur, you know exactly what you're doing is right. You just need more resources. You don't need more advice.
correct.
Back to 2001 Silicon Valley.
You need just more, resources to kind of execute the plan. So I started thinking, how do you pull it off? How do you pull it off? And so that's where, some entrepreneurial thinking sort of helped to. So I'll tell you the sequence of events that happened. The first is on my neighbor who came and offered 8 acres of land. I created a.
What is his name?
His name is Bomle. So he's one of the locals. So I created a IIT Kanpur Faculty Grove.
Faculty Grove.
Yeah.
On his land.
On his land.
Okay.
So basically got the names of professors who have played a very pivotal role in building the institute over the last 60 years. Scraped their names from the website, made a list and mapped their names to each tree which was planted on that land.
Wow. So you gave the tree an identity.
Yeah. That this tree is in the name of Professor Harish Karnik, this tree is in the name of Professor Rajaraman. And so the list of around 700 plus names. And I shared that with the director at that time that this is a grove I have created. And he was very happy. Nice tribute to all the professors. Um, Interestingly, I shared some of the pictures in my batch WhatsApp group,
Your batch of 1990.
1990. And there was also a good response. People liked the idea. But in every batch, there are some notorious characters. So I'll not take the name, but so one of the notorious characters said, you've done, planted trees in the name of professor, that's great. But my memories of IIT Kanpur are not with the professors.
Huh.
They are with the canteen where I spend most of my time.
Huh.
So have you planted a tree in the name of the Lala who used to serve us chai?
Okay.
So I said, no, but I can. If you sponsor it, I will.
Huh.
And the next day, a check showed up, NEFT transfer.
Really?
Because this guy associates with the Lala more than the professors. And
Correct.
he's willing to write a big check
For the Lala.
for the Lala.
Okay.
So that's when it occurred to me that if you can somehow tap emotions
Huh.
and attach it with the trees,
Huh.
at that point, it is not a logical decision at all.
Correct.
And if you can find what is the right button for each person, you can actually fund this project. Because for somebody, it is a Lala
Correct.
whose memories are cherished.
Correct.
For somebody, it is their grandfather.
Correct.
For somebody, it is their kids. For somebody, it is their parents. Or, in fact, we even have a grove in the name of Hall 2 E Top Wing, because the bench of people who stayed together in Hall 2 E Top have cherished memories of spending time together. So they have sponsored a grove together as a group to preserve the memories of their time together. So it can be any reason actually.
Correct.
And that's when I started imagining that the forest that we want to build, it can be imagined as a forest full of memories. And if you can somehow host those memories and attach them with the trees, you can tap a much bigger market out there. Because people are yearning for something more meaningful at this point in time.
Correct.
The material gifts are meaningless. In fact, with so many people diabetic, the mithai ka dabba is actually more of a death threat rather than a sweet gift.
Correct.
Right? So that's how this idea sort of originated. Let's create groves. Let's create batch-wise groves. Let's create groves representing social groups, families, and why not encourage people to, gift trees?
Correct.
See, people are, if you go to conferences these days, you get some meaningless gifts. This plaque, which you don't know what to do with it.
Correct.
You can't throw it in the bin. You can't carry it in the flight because it won't fit in the overhead. And you don't know what to do with it. And it's a liability. So just cut that crap. And some people are also gifting saplings. But actually, those are also meaningless because, sapling you can't carry in your flight to some
Correct.
home. And people are living in an apartment, they don't have space to keep that up.
Correct.
So a gift of a tree where you get a beautiful card and says, look, such and such tree is planted in your name, this can be a great way to fund this whole project.
And what's the economics? So you how much did it cost to? So we also know, like for example, I visited 14 trees a few times,
yes.
and you do an amazing job of choosing the right sapling or the plant basis, the location. Right. It has to be diverse enough. Then you have to plant it. Then you have to protect it for a few years before, otherwise someone will eat. So all of that is a lot of effort that you're anyways going to put in. You're just asking someone to fund the economics of it.
The way we've kind of done the economics, I looked at how much money are we spending to run our project and how many trees are we planting at the end of the
Through
year.
that effort, correct.
So you take the capital, divide by number of trees, and that number comes out to be approximately 1,500
rupees.
per tree. And this includes everything: digging of ponds, hiring of labor force, giving them a sustained long-term employment, maintaining, putting organic compost, putting a tag on the tree, and all of that, right? But this is all covers all the on-the-ground expenses. Now, as the IT backend of this whole thing is also growing, we realize that we also need software developers and data scientists and so on. So then the cost has gone up to about 2,000. So if you want to take a tree and gift it to someone, it costs us about 2,000. And in today's day, a very meaningful gift of a lifetime for 2,000 rupees is a no-brainer actually.
Correct.
A lot of conferences have started now gifting these gift cards to the speakers and to the volunteers who are helping with the conferences. And I think you lately,
Yes.
do a bulk order of 100 and then finish them off. And once it is done, you do another bulk order of 100.
I must
So
tell
maybe
you.
you should tell why are you finding this as a more meaningful gift than, what you have been doing until now?
I always struggled with gifting, and it's surprising given that Bombay Shaving Company is now 15-20% of our sales are now gifting sales, where people are gifting it to especially a 17, 18, 19-year-old boy who's going to shave for the first time. So that's when the Bombay Shaving Company. So it's a very specific gifting use case. But otherwise, for my friends or for anyone who's so in the last few months, I started realizing that this one gifting of a tree just became a very wide use case. I could do it for anything. So, for example, Yoso, who's like Diksha and Ashish and the team who helps with the BarberShop podcast, they completed, I think, 3 years since they started. And I said, okay, fine. I want to kind of gift trees to for from a Yoso standpoint, and then every person who joins Yoso, then there can be a tree in that. So I was like, cool. This is like 5 to 10 trees. How many did we do, Diksha?
What?
How many trees did we do for Yoso? Five trees to start with. I think.
Yeah, we are 25 of us now, so we will do
So now you guys have to now plant. So I've told them now that now you have to plant one tree each.
Actually, the team planted one each the day they visited.
But did they
last
pay for
week.
it?
Yeah.
We should get
So one is of course there's a company, so their birthday. Then another friend of mine who's the founder of a company called Trebo, which is in hospitality. He had his 40th birthday, and he has 2 twin children, and gifted him 14 trees each for each of his kids in their name, so that they're carbon neutral for their. And we should talk about the name also. And then one of my friends, very unfortunately, lost their dog a few months back. So gifted them a tree in Bravo's name. And then I realized that every time I'm gifting a tree, and the way you do it, right, which is not only is it a gifting of a tree, but there is a card that comes that there's a tree that is planted in Bravo's name. This is the location. Scan this QR code. It is a Kadulimba tree, or it is whatever tree it is, and hence it is helping the insects and birds of that. So the people I was gifting it to felt so deeply attached to that tree. Then they would scan the QR code, and then the email would come with a full dashboard that this is a location. Please come on this dashboard whenever you want to see the group. So then suddenly it became a very community-driven thing, and I felt tremendously proud of that. I would get a lot of social gratitude and reward
Thank you.
for gifting that tree. And then I realized this is what I want to do, man. Like this is what so when one of my friends, Prachi, she's incorporated her new school, Anandi, and she's a close friend, and so gifted her 5 trees for the inauguration of Anandi school. I told her every time a student joins, you should plant a tree there. And I think that has made me realize that I only want to gift 14 trees. Because it is a beautiful feeling to be a part of something much bigger than you. Even as a giftee, as a gifter, both. You feel like you're a part of something very big and you have played a role in that, and there is a pride associated with it. I also feel in a world that is very cognizant of climate change, of the fact that we need to do this, and there's a lot of greenwashing that's happening. Like there are, buy this face wash and we'll plant a tree for you, or all of this,
Or just click here and
we'll plant
for
a tree. It doesn't work that way. And now that I've come to 14 trees and I've seen how much effort goes, I'm sure some trees getting planted, but no one's taking care of it, and it's probably 99% rubbish, right? So to be a part of something that is so, and I've known you for now good part of 23, 24 years. I feel like there is someone who is overlooking this in terms of quality and vision, and the least I can do is buy. So for me now, and Deepthi is in the room, I guess, and what we do is like we buy 100 trees, and then that's my inventory, and we keep gifting it out. And on that group, Vivek has been so nice, and like give 5 trees to Yoso, give 10 trees to this person, 2 trees for this person, and then the gift card gets sent out, and then once 100 touches 0, I'll top up with 100 trees again, and I'll keep topping up 100 trees, and that's becomes my...
Shantanu, people say when you go for a wedding or something, only compliments please.
Yeah.
But if you gift a tree to the bride and the groom and the parents, nobody says no.
Yeah.
Actually, interesting that you say this. I'll tell you the deeper reason why we have designed it this way. See, the issue of global warming, climate change, if you talk to the average person, they think it is the government's job to deal with it.
Correct.
Or the UN folks are meeting, they are doing the COP26, and it's their problem. It's not my problem.
But because how much can I do alone?
How much can I do? And I feel powerless and there is nothing I can do. While the reality is that this is a mission on which until people connect and bring about certain, unless they feel connected to that mission, it is not going to happen. This is a problem cannot be solved just by top-down regulations and
Mandates.
COP26 of the world.
Correct.
The question is, how do you go about sensitizing people and bringing them into that fold? I have been a professor in my previous life and taught a lot. I realized that, lecturing doesn't work.
Correct.
So a lot of these awareness-centric programs where you're creating conferences, posters and lectures, none of that works. You have to sort of connect to people at a much deeper level where they feel sort of connected with that cause and there's something within they feel. And question, how do you do that? So the idea behind 14 Trees is that we are creating an experience zone. The reason you are now a fan of 14 Trees because you have come in that experience zone and you have felt something.
Correct.
If you notice, there is not a single poster or a signage at 14 Trees.
Correct.
You just go there and you feel something. Similarly, this gift card is make you feel something. The illustrations which are there, they are so beautiful. These illustrations are done by artists who are volunteering their time to create those illustrations, and they are not charging any money at all for that because that is their way of connecting with the mission and contributing. So this entire volunteer-driven work is creating something fantastic, beautiful, which is touching people. And I think we want that experience and feeling to be felt by increasing number of people. See, as you know, I am not a social media person at all. I have no LinkedIn, no Facebook or Insta or whatever. The reason I sort of agreed to come on BarberShop.
I'm so glad you're here.
Because I think we have to get this word out to people and give them an opportunity to connect and feel that same sentiment. And I think it needs to be done at a larger scale. And I'm glad that kind of, you are sort of taking on the mission to get the word out.
Yeah, I will. So for me now, I have also reached a stage in, maybe I'm at that stage which you may have been in 2008-9, where I look for meaningful side hustles outside of my main job. And most of my side hustles have been anthropocentric in nature. Like, so running the BarberShop or running the BarberShop fund or doing work with Olympic Gold Quest for athletes or, working with as an advisor at McKinsey or Advent or all of this stuff is stuff that I do outside of my entrepreneurial role, but it is all, kind of with a view to helping people and incubating companies or investing, or it's got money at its center, it's got growth at its center, it's got people at its center. But this was the first time I actually felt like I want to start dematerializing my life and kind of slowly start giving up. I went in like a couple of years back, I went and bought an obnoxious BMW convertible 2-seater which my mom hated. कि इसमें तो तीसरा आदमी बैठ ही नहीं सकता तुम क्या. So I reached that point also at third में midlife crisis बोलते हैं कुछ लोग, whatever, right? You reach a point where you want to kind of just whatever enjoy before you get too old and all that. And last year I realized this is just a rubbish way of kind of living life. So I sold a car, and now I have started feeling that I only derive pleasure from doing things that are dematerial in nature, which is very anti-capitalist or anti-entrepreneurial in the traditional way we think about it. But I have started getting joy from this.
Actually, so good that you bring this up. So I want to share my worldview on this. See, we are living in a world where economic growth is a necessity. So I am not a proponent of degrowth. But with the one subtle difference. See, if you look at the last 200 years of human history, economic growth has happened at the cost of natural resource depletion. So, my thesis is that if you continue on the current path, you're going to get more economic growth, but more natural resource depletion.
And that's unsustainable.
And that's unsustainable. So, at the core of it, what we are attempting to do, we are investing in nature repair. We are undoing all the damage caused. And through that work, we are trying to feed economic growth. So we are creating jobs in the local community. We are spawning new sustainable high-tech companies. But the core of it is repair, restoration, not extraction. So I am still want economic growth, but you can create economic growth at a higher layer of abstractions without being too material. So yes, we want dematerialization, but we don't have to do it at the expense of economic slowdown.
Correct.
This is what Pravin always says, Pravin, that you can generate economic growth, you can generate whole lot of action, but not at the cost. Pravin, I want to, pick this point for you. Something else, the human alignment that he talked about, people, I've seen Pravin pick that human alignment very early. And Pravin, you want to talk about that first time you planted trees, you took all villagers and planted tree in their name.
Yeah, so one thing that we have done, see, essentially, connecting people and sort of making them part of the mission is very, very important. So we've been doing some interesting socio-economic psychology experiments. We planted a lot of trees on the roadside. But we know that the survival rate is poor of such efforts. So one experiment we did is we took the names of all the villages and put a name plate on each tree. That this tree is in the name of this person, this tree is in the name of this person. So one day villagers woke up and they saw there are trees in their name on the roadside. So people are puzzled. But people will not start watering their tree just because there's a nameplate there. And we were not expecting that anyway. But something very interesting happened. The guy who has the contract of watering those trees carries a tanker.
Who you have contracted.
Who we have contracted out. That guy is a local. Now, initially he had the habit of, watering once and claiming he's done 5 trips. But the locals started observing, you were not there yesterday. They started chasing him.
So they're taking care of their trees in a way.
So they started chasing the contractor to make sure that you do the job properly. And we have more than 95% survival rate just because locals are now chasing the guy. So somewhere people felt connected. They are not watering themselves, but they want to make sure that stays alive.
They're not planted it and they're not watering it, but it's in their name.
Is the name.
So it's
now they're
attached.
taking care of it in their own way.
So we figured that once you start naming trees in people's name, something clicks. So all the locals who visit our project site, we ask them to write their name. We take their picture with the label and then we plant a tree in their name. So somehow people are feeling good and they are telling their friends. So without social media, our word is spreading through basically pure word of mouth publicity. And more people are coming to visit the project. They are supporting. See, we don't charge anything to anyone who will visit the site. It's free. So it's very much like a Gurudwara style system. You come, you will get free food. So there are enough donors who make sure that the system keeps running. So similarly in our system, there are enough donors who keep supporting us and that everything is free. And someday, if this, I think, so we don't want to put a price tag at all.
And
to
Pravin
people
has
who want
been
to come and
very,
experience
very
it.
clear about. So we get some new volunteers, and when they start seeing the economics and amount of the hospitality or food that is happening, no, we should charge for it. And Pravin knows after a while they become part of the system, and nobody talks about it after that.
So I have been there a bunch of times. I always wonder because you're you're the driver. So you will spend a day, you will take the car, you will drive the person to that place, you will show them around, you will feed them food, and you will plant a tree in their name over there, and then they'll all kind of come back home. Some of them will, and it genuinely is a life-changing experience for someone to have come to 14 trees But you should talk about why 14 trees. Where did the name come from?
So I'll give you a slightly longer answer to that question. It again goes back to you need to do things in such a way that people feel a connection to what you're doing. So the issues with all the global warming and climate change, the problem I see is that two problems actually. First of all, some really big numbers are being thrown around, which nobody understands. So if I tell you, for example, last 100 years we have added 300 gigatons of CO2 in the atmosphere.
I don't know what that means.
So what does that mean, right? I mean, is it big? Is it less? How does it relate to what I'm doing?
Correct.
No clue. So no action will follow.
Correct.
And the writers of those articles are thinking that they're doing great McKinsey job by putting pie charts and graph, but nobody gets it.
All the researchers.
Correct.
So if people can't connect, they are not going to take any action.
Yeah. So even if the fact is true, even if it's a
Fact
very
is true.
valid
Fact
and
is
big
true,
scare fact,
but
it means nothing.
It means nothing to you. It means nothing to you. So I have been searching for a narrative which people can relate to. So while this project was going on, I was wondering, what name to give to this project. While there's a good activity, we are doing social good, we are doing environment good, but how will people feel
The
connected?
story has to have a name. Correct.
And actually, the eureka moment came one day when my younger daughter, who
Nidhi.
was in 6th grade that time, she came and asked me some question on a science textbook. So I read that chapter, and this chapter was on photosynthesis. So I read that chapter, 6th grade science textbook, and it was like 2 pages on photosynthesis that, 6 molecules of water combined with 6 molecules of carbon dioxide and create a molecule of glucose. And sunlight energy is absorbed and the molecule of glucose is created. And I really had an aha moment at that time. I mean, I have also read that chapter when I was in 6th grade, but it never clicked. But after maybe, 30, 35 years of life perspective, if you read a 6th grade textbook, sometime it can throw some new perspective that you had never imagined. And suddenly I realized that all the creation that we see around us, creation meaning living beings, the trees, the grass, the insects, the butterflies and animals or whatever, everything is made from stacking of glucose molecules, right? So you are essentially seeing combination of water and carbon dioxide in the living forms.
Correct.
So if you want to calculate how much CO2 is absorbed, you just weigh that entity and you can calculate how much CO2 is absorbed. So then I started thinking, we are also contributors to global warming.
Correct.
In our lifestyle, but also through the act of breathing. We are breathing in oxygen and we are breathing out carbon dioxide. So if you notice how much CO2 we add, for example, when this interview is going on, at the end of it, we are leaving the world with more CO2 than when we started, right? So if you calculate how much CO2 you have added in a day or in a month or in a year, and assuming 100 years of lifespan of a human, that amount is actually non-trivial. So 14 trees, the calculation is, if you plant 14 trees, the entire CO2 you breathe out in your lifetime, through the act of breathing, will get absorbed.
So your existence becomes
So your existence becomes carbon neutral. Now, this is an approximate calculation. It could be 10, it could be 15, doesn't matter, but its order of magnitude is the same, right? So people suddenly, it clicks. So you are telling me that if I plant 14 trees, I am going to neutralize my existence. And this is something I can do. 14 trees in a lifetime is very easily.
Correct.
And people are able to connect very well. And the day they visit the project site, they plant their first tree. And then I tell them, by the way, 13 is a very unlucky number. So you quickly plant one more. So you go wherever you go and plant, and not just plant, make sure it survives.
Correct.
And if you are not able to find land and you come to us, we will plant it for you.
Yeah.
So that name 14 trees essentially tells people how to turn their desire into an concrete action. So the reason I don't love social media too much, because just thumbs up doesn't do anything.
Correct.
You have to turn it into an action. So the 14 trees is an actual action that, I have planted this, neutralize my existence. And then people come back, say, look, I have done 14, now what do I do next? At least that question gets asked. Because previously, these articles which were saying 200 gigatons of CO2 in the air was not instigating any action at all. Now, it's a fact that even if everyone were to plant 14 trees, the global warming will not be solved because the extent of that emission is so big.
Correct.
But at least it makes people conscious of their existence. The thinking starts. What can I do? How do I dematerialize myself? What is the next thing I do? And I think that comes from within, not because of any lecturing or signage or whatever. And I think that's the true way people are actually going to come on board, becoming conscious of their own existence and taking some action. So ultimately, we want to inspire climate action,
Yeah.
but in a very non-intrusive, not in your face, preaching and lecturing method, but something that comes within through experiences.
I love the way you like, because I've experienced it myself. That when you come to the 14 trees land parcel and you see the people working there, you see the saplings, you see the trees, you see the name, you see the gift card, you see, the IIT Kanpur Grove and everything. Now it's a living, breathing ecosystem with birds that have never been to that place before, with insects that have never been, with land animals,
Wildlife.
with 105 ponds, which like now it's become its own being. And when you are there, you're right, something clicks. You feel like you're in a special place. But it was not like that. And very nicely you have those before after, like this. I don't know, Diksha, when you go there, you'll see this looked like this like photograph hota hai jo samne hota hai, wo it is the present, and what it was like 5 years back is a photograph which is kept there. So you can see the from to very clearly. How did you get people involved and become a part of this? Because you can't just keep driving people there. It's not.
Right.
It's still an hour and a half away from Pune and so on. So something has happened where you kind of got people almost in a Pied Piper way.
I'll say it's again a power of organic growth. When we succeeded in transforming the first 4 acres into all these goodies, soil was coming back, water was coming back, birds were coming back, vegetation was coming back. See, we all come from a tech background and we always think of scale. Anything that works, scale kaise karenge. So the desire was there, this thing needs to be scaled. But it's a very non-intuitive idea that, you're just going to put capital into something where there is no return. And you need massive amount of capital to really, and how will you scale this where there is no ROI, right? So at core, my belief was, I'm convinced that this is the right thing to do. If you have to convince more people, you need to create a real life size demonstration. So if you tell someone, you've transformed 4 acres, it's not a big deal. But if you say, well, you have done 200 acres, then people will take it a little bit more seriously. So first thought came that, let us create a substantive size demonstration of what's possible. And that required, acquisition of land, convincing people that, they need to buy land and just
Give it
to the project so that we can create this demo. Good news is there are enough people out there with resources who actually want something of this sort to happen. And once you earn their trust, the gates open up. So the first goal was to create 200-acre size demonstration. Once that was coming in shape, locals started observing that the land which they thought was totally useless, now, papaya is growing, now the mangoes are growing. And I think water was the biggest draw, that you come in the middle of month of summer, May, and there's water there, which they had never imagined. So local Gram Panchayat people started coming and telling that, look, we have similar barren land. Why don't you just take it?
Correct.
And do exactly what you are doing here at our side. Another interesting lesson that I learned and realized that for this model to work, it has to be an opt-in model. If we go out and tell people this is what we can do for you, people are always going to be skeptic and suspect of what's your motive.
Correct.
So we have done not a single outreach ever in our 11 years of existence there. We are just quietly doing what we are believing in. And the locals are coming and watching, and they are offering their land to us. When somebody comes and offers, take our land, we never say no. Similarly, if somebody comes and says, I want work at your site, we never say no. We don't worry about financials, we don't worry about balance sheet, we just say yes. So the land started growing because
People
now
are opting in.
people opting in. So now we have neighboring 22 villages which have come and given their land to us. So we have grown from 200 to 1400. We have created an outpost in Buldhana. And actually the story of Buldhana is also very interesting. So a lot of people say, look, this is great that you have done it in Pune area, but how are you going to scale it in other areas? You need a sort of a Pravin Bhagwat in every region. And I said, look, I'm a pragmatist. If you can scale up Starbucks, the CEO is not in every little shop and selling coffee, right?
Correct.
You put in some systems and processes in place. Similarly, this thing can also be scaled. And I'll actually tell you a very interesting story. And again, solutions for scale have come organically without us really putting ourselves into a strategy room. So the story is, there's a guy named Sachin who worked with us. He's from Buldhana. And he learnt all the tricks of the trade, how to dig pits, how to make tree guards, and how to plant trees. After 7 months of training, he one day came and told Anand that he wants to go back to his village in Buldhana because he got married. So we said, why don't you bring your wife also here? We will give jobs to both of you. You have learned everything and you can be well taken care of. He said, no, I have my ancestral land. I have to do farming there. I have to go. So we said, well, you're going back. Why don't you start a nursery there? We'll sponsor it. And he agreed. So we said, you are on our payroll, 10,000 rupees a month. Your job is to build a nursery. So for 2 years, we kept funding him, giving him all the supplies, and he made a nursery. 25,000 saplings were ready. Now he said, what do I do next? So Anand told him, look, you plant these trees on the roadside. Make some tree guards. And these tree guards actually look beautiful. So he hired 2 laborers, made some tree guards, and planted 100 trees on the roadside. Next morning, people saw a beautiful 100 trees standing on the road. So the local sarpanch came and met him. What is this? What is this scheme of the government that I don't know of? He said, no, this is the 14 tree scheme. So we called Anand, what is this going on? So Anand explained, what do we do? So he said, why only 100? Why not 500? So we said, okay, we will sponsor 500. So he created a row of 500 trees on the roadside.
Wow.
In Buldhana.
But this
In
is all
Buldhana.
funded by you.
All funded by 14 trees. A week later, Sarpanch of the neighboring village came. I'm hearing there are some nice tree guards and trees on the roadside. Why not in my village? So we said, well, if you're interested, here is a Google form where you have to put in an entry, and Sachin knows how to operate that form. And you have to pass a resolution in local Gram Panchayat that you want this to happen and you want 14 trees to do it for you. So there's a process by which you pass that resolution, upload that forms, and Sachin knows everything to run that process. So 2 days later, we get a Google form entry that this village wants trees on their roadside. 2 weeks later, 2 more sarpanch of the neighboring village come. So now 1 village has grown into 4.
Correct.
They want this on their roadside.
But are they funding it?
No.
No one's funding it.
They're just saying, look, you do it. But we are happy to do it. Why we want people to buy a gift card? Because the gift card funds those trees. So we don't want locals to say, locals will not fund it.
Correct.
It's somebody else who are worried about their carbon emission should buy a gift card so that such trees get funded. But this idea came a little bit later. At that time, we were just spending money and just doing it. So a few weeks later, we now have 100 trees in each one of the neighboring villages. Few days later, the sarpanch comes and says, look, why only roadside? We have some barren land also. Why don't you plant there? So we said, well, we'll do it. Again, the same process. There's a Google form in which you upload your requirement, you pass a resolution and upload. So the interesting thing is, I have never been to Buldhana in my life. But now we have access to 150 acres of land in Buldhana where the local Gram Panchayat is ready, aligned to host the trees on their barren land. And there is a Sachin who we are paying 10,000 rupees a month, who's the guy on motorcycle and doing the whole project.
And you have donors who have kind of...
And who are sponsoring it. So you need million Sachins You don't need 15 Pravin Bhagwats actually. And we have those million Sachins in the country who are looking for jobs. And you can put them to work and you can put greenery all over the place. That's the scaling. And it's all inbound because people are opting in, they want this to happen.
So scalability is not the issue, you mean? Like
Capital is the issue. If you bring in the capital, scaling will happen because there's a desire on the ground to do it.
And the sarpanches and the villages, they like it because it beautifies it kind of.
They are able to show that they are able. See, it's a very visible thing. The moment suddenly all the trees come up and the tree guards come up, something sudden change in scenery, people notice and they take credit that they are the ones who brought it.
Some sarpanches, Pravin, have got awards for this, right?
Sarpanch get awards that they have brought this transformation, and we are happy for them to take credit and tout their success.
We don't take credit.
So opt-in is the key. We never go out and tell people this is what we can do for you because then people start suspecting some motive. It's completely opt-in. So the land acquisition is opt-in, labor force growth is opt-in, and even financing is also opt-in. We have never gone and asked for a single rupee of donation from anyone. It is the visitors who have come to the site have voluntarily written checks to us. We have never done a single outreach. And I'm here today because you asked me to come and
No, because I feel like we need to create these billion Sachins.
absolutely.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
We need to create it. And I think
What
capital.
Swiggy has done in the metros, you can have an army of these young guys on motorcycles going around planting trees, tagging them, uploading them, and bringing about revolution.
They are the
It's
green,
possible. We have shown it is doable.
We need capital.
Yeah. And
Just need
Shantanu,
capital.
one of the things we
Capital without strings attached. With no ROI expectation.
No, right.
Correct.
See, ROI will come, I tell you.
And you're giving ROI.
It will come.
You're giving it in the form of that emotion of the gift.
They will also be material ROI, I tell you.
Okay.
But give it 15 years. It won't happen in 1 quarter and 2 quarters. You have to give it time for that whole economy.
How will material ROI happen in 15 years? Let's say I plant 200 trees a year and in 15 years I've planted 3,000 trees.
See, we are spawning many micro ventures out of this. Whenever you are creating new value, you're now creating a new enterprise. That venture, once it becomes self-sustainable, starts growing, there is money to be made there. So if you are an investor who want to invest into a micro venture, and if you are a little bit patient, you can generate ROI. But what I don't want to do is to sort of promise upfront. Because once you promise upfront, then you are taught into this cycle of, now it's been 3 quarters and show me where the results are. If you're patient, you will get the returns. See, imagine if you are creating an army of 1 million people who are skilled in the task of planting, tagging, uploading all the data into the cloud, and there's a market which is willing to sponsor the trees, there is money to be made there. Besides the wages that the people are running, and it's a large enterprise one can build out of it. So whoever is investing into that can generate money. So people who are doing impact investing,
Correct.
this is a perfectly good market to play actually. And we want to create some success stories, and then sort of let the market then pick it up. And so just like Anant has now become an entrepreneur.
Yes.
Sachin is on the way to becoming an entrepreneur.
Correct.
We want to create hundreds and thousands of such people. And it's certainly doable. And imagine the timing is right that globally we want some action to happen on global warming, on the climate. If you can link it with job growth, nothing better than that.
Talk about the people who've gotten involved with you from a financing standpoint. Of course, the IIT Kanpur, IIT Bombay, that's a good story.
Right. So the way the story, see, first I told you I created a IIT Kanpur faculty group. That builds some degree of credibility and trust. And then the idea came, why don't we create an alumni group? Because there are like 40,000 alumni all over the world. But one of the problems with IIT alumni, they are also very argumentative and, 1,000 questions. So that's why I started with my batch. Because at least my batch may trust me.
Correct.
They will write checks without asking too many questions. And once there's an example that something has been done by one batch, now more batches are coming forward. So there's a batch of 88, which has come forward, batch of 99. So in each batch, you need one anchor person who can really mobilize the resources within the batch. So wherever such personalities exist and who have come to the site, those batches have got activated. And so batch of 1975 from IIT Kanpur is very active and planting trees. So slowly we think that the word will reach to all the batches, and that IIT Kanpur Grove will get created. In fact, already there are more than 10,000 trees which have been sponsored
From alumni of IIT Kanpur.
from alumni, and we still have another 30,000 to go.
So 40,000 total alumni are there.
Yes. Now, while this action is brewing up, we are sitting in Pune, which is like the center of IIT Bombay's, Karma Bhumi, right?
Correct.
And they are getting puzzled, okay, what are these IIT Kanpur guys doing here? So one of the alumni, his name is Shirish Devdar, he once came to the project and he said, well, I like this idea of faculty grow, so I'm going to write a check and sponsor IIT Bombay faculty grow. So we now have an IIT Bombay faculty grow at 14 trees.
How many trees in these?
He sponsored around 1,000 trees.
Wow.
Yeah. Now we are still collecting names and mapping those names to the trees. So that process is on. But then, just like give an example, this is an area where it's not logic. It is just a pure raw emotions that should be at play. So just to trigger the debate, I told the IIT Bombay guys, you guys sometimes have this wrong impression. You think that you are number one. But in my mind, IIT Kanpur is the number one. So the day you beat our 40,000 number, then we'll come and talk. Until then, IIT is number. So now they are at work. They're talking. So we want this healthy competition to happen. Which institute creates a bigger grove? Let them show. So let some emotions flow and some competition be there, and let us give out the award.
That's
for
when
the
Pravin teases me that you are from IIT Bombay. Prove it to me that you are better, bigger.
For our viewers, I think just these words get thrown around very easily: mission orientation, purpose, etc. And even for me, like I oftentimes use them flakily. I'm guilty of kind of throwing them around myself. It's not like I'm not a part of the ecosystem. I am very much. But sometimes you genuinely see it happen in the most purest, most authentic way. And I think the way both of you built Mojo and the way you have kind of committed yourself over the last 15 years to 14 trees and the next 25 years or your entire life to it is true mission orientation and purpose. And for people who are watching, I think that is what I think should be the takeaway for anyone who wants to be an entrepreneur, is that this is what will truly change the world in that small way that you're imagining when you have an idea. And then after that, kind of it manifests in the effort and risk and everything that you're able to do, and of course the way you're able to mobilize people. And I'm actually so privileged to be kind of to know you and to be part of 14 trees in this small way, as someone who kind of is able to very selfishly give out gift cards, might add. But I
want more selfish people out there.
But what I will do is, and this is for all our viewers, is this video is now up on YouTube. Okay. Anyone who shares this video on any social media platform of your choice, you would prefer LinkedIn or Instagram, but it has to have a write-up of what you took away from the 14 trees example. It cannot just be a share on a story or something. If it's a post, it has to be something that you write in your own language on Instagram or LinkedIn or Facebook, Twitter, whatever you like. But it has to have your own language, not AI generated, to your followers. And if you share it with me on, again, you can share it with me on Instagram DM or LinkedIn DM, or email it to me on Shantanu@bombayshavingcompany.com, and do copy Deepti, DEEPTI at bombayshavingcompany.com. For every share that anyone does, I will personally plant one tree at 14 trees in your name. whoever is sharing it in your name, we will have a tree planted at 14 trees. And for anyone who wants to plant your own tree at 14 trees, it could be in the name of a parent, a sibling, a spouse, a child, a pet, a teacher, your college, whatever. You've heard Pravin Uncle talk about the various use cases of people planting trees. But if you plant one tree and you share it with us, I will personally plant 2 more trees in your name. So it will be a total of 3 trees, and we'll facilitate all of that at the 14 Trees Foundation. So for all the barbershop viewers, if you share it, we'll plant 1 tree, but the share has to be with your own point of view on what 14 trees is. And if you are generous enough to have a tree in your name at 14 trees, we will back that up with 2 more trees, or 3 trees, 2 from our side, 1 from your side, in your name at 14 trees. And that's, hopefully this episode will create another small wave of trees at the parcel. And it's a small thing that we can do. And this is a lifetime thing. This has no expiry date. It's not like till this date, till that date, nothing. Whenever you do it, we will plant a tree.
Yeah, it'll be fantastic
Indefinitely.
to have like a forest.
Yeah.
created
barbershop
out of this
forest?
podcast
Barbershop
episode.
forest?
Excellent. So I think the barbershop grove, the idea has come on this podcast.
Yes.
But the learning is it has to be opt-in. So I do it in my own way by taking 100 trees at a time. But if you want to be a part of the barbershop grove, and there will be a lot of benefits that come with it, more emotionally in any other way, but to associate with me and the barbershop and all our guests, a share with a post or a tree in your name, which will be with 2 more from my side, the barbershop. I would love to know how many trees
acres,
come.
How many acres of
How many?
forest got built?
Hopefully, how many acres come? But that's
How
our
many
way of
people
kind of
Actually,
creating more
sometimes you
momentum.
never know. The small ideas can really click and
Click and go
grow.
back. Go back.
Yeah. I hope this becomes a financial burden on me.
Very good problem.
I am actually worried.
You are in my mom's shoes now. Committed something extra. No, but let's see where this goes.
Yeah.
So for every share, 1 tree, and for every tree, 2 more trees from our side, indefinitely,
I
for
think
as
better.
long as this episode is on YouTube.